Good evening. Welcome to the April 27th meeting of the Village Board of Trustees. We're going to begin with a regular meeting followed by a work session. This meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Codman.
Present.
Trustee Levin.
Present.
Trustee Bazemore.
Present.
Trustee Gazada.
Present.
Mayor Garrity.
Present.
Are there any mayor and trustees announcements this evening? Can you hear? No?
We okay on sound there, Tom? Any mayors or trustees announcements? Sure, I will let everyone know that on Thursday, May 19th, the Asting Documentary and Discussion Series will be hosting its the screening of the film Just Eat It, followed by a discussion with three very interesting women who are involved in the movement for addressing food waste. It says, we all love food. As a society, we devour countless cooking shows, culinary magazines, and foodie blogs. But so how could we possibly be throwing away nearly 50% of it in the trash? So if you are a foodie yourself, if you have concern about waste, or if you just like to come and have conversations with interesting people, then please join us on Thursday, May 19th at 6:30 at the Ossining Public Library. Anything else folks want to let people know about? Trustees? All right. Madam Clerk.
Okay, Village Board resolutions. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board regarding the resolutions this evening? No?
Seeing no one.
So then we will move on to Resolution A, amending tiered water rate schedule. Be it resolved that the portion of the village water rate structure contained in the April 2016 fee schedule adopted on December 2nd, 2015, which became effective April 1st, 2016, is hereby suspended. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the following change to the 2016 fee schedule as previously adopted on December 2nd, 2015. Section 259-47, water rates within the village. First 100 cubic feet per billing cycle, $25 minimum over 100 CF billing cycle, $7.491 per 100 CF. Increase 5.5% January through April 2016, except for blended water rates previously provided for January through March 2016, over 100 CF billing cycle to 33,000 CCF per quarter or 11,000 CCF per month or 22,000 CCF per bi-monthly, $7.491 per 100 CF effective 5/1/2016, over 33,000 CF per quarter or 11,000 CCF per month or 22,000 CCF bi-month, $14.982 per 100 CF effective 5/1/2016. Owners and related customers will be grouped together for purposes of determining billing consumption thresholds. Unincorporated Town of Ossining. First 100 cubic feet per billing cycle, $37.50. Minimum over 100 CF per billing cycle, $11.236 per 100 CF, 5.5 increase January through April 2016, except for blended water rates previously provided for January through March 2016, over 100 CF per billing cycle to 33,000 CCF per quarter or 11,000 CCF per month or 22,000 CCF bi-month, $11.236 per 100 CF, effective 5/1/2016. Over 33,000 CF per quarter or 11,000 CCF per month or 22,000 CCF by month, $22.472 per 100 CF, effective 5/1/16. Owners and related customers will be grouped together for purposes of determining billing consumption threshold. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Yes, sir.
I was going to Wonder if we get an explanation of all this. It seems pretty technical. Maybe we could have Superintendent
Yeah.
Tease
Andy, if you could come up.
explain
Right.
what's going on.
As he comes up, actually,
It looks like a lot of people are ready to come up.
go ahead, Tom.
All right,
Don't
thank-
fight.
That's work.
Yeah,
Are we on there, Tom?
Yeah, these are
It's on?
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure he was going to be heard. Hey,
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees.
good evening.
The first part of this was to suspend the current fee schedule. We had some increases that were going to take effect in effective April 1st, based on whether or not consumption was greater than 833 100 cubic feet per month. And then it was, multiplied for bi-monthly and quarterly billings based on that. And that caught a lot of customers in this higher tiered system. So we went back and we recalculated the amount based on a higher amount in conjunction with the surcharge that New York City charges for high consumption. And so I think that maybe Andy could talk about that part of it.
Thank you. I've talked about the per capita cost that New York City charges us. Basically, if you go above a certain rate per day, for example, in the summer months, it could be as high as 110 gallons per day. It could be as low as 105 gallons per day per person. Based on population, New York City imposes a penalty to its water purveyors. And it used to be up to 4 times, but now it's about 2.9 times the rate, which is still a lot. And with the plan that we worked jointly with New York City DEP on the conservation plan, we looked at some of the highest users. And we looked at the trends over the last 10 years, and there are some users that really, I don't want to say abuse, but don't conserve. And we looked at their previous consumption based on their population, and we looked back at those numbers, and during those good years, we forecasted out what that would be in today's time. So Tom and I worked on looking at their gallons per day, and the number that we came up with was 135 gallons per day, which is, it's very conservative on our side. It's if New York City's only charging 110 to 120 before you go into a penalty, there's no reason why anybody couldn't be under the 135 if they really watched what they were doing. And above that, it's going to be 2 times the rate. So Tom's going to talk about how we got there, but it's the only way that we're going to impose conservation.
I don't think there's really much more to say. That explains it, and we just doubled the rate for only that portion of water that was above the 135 gallons per day on average for the large users.
Because then that's the incentive for any very large users to find ways to conserve their water usage, which helps alleviate the demand on the infrastructure for us overall, which is the reason for this conservation effort that we're partnering with the New York City DEP on, correct?
As we know, our filter plant is running at full capacity in the summertime. The usage of some of the facilities are really makes our plant work hard. And the leaks that we recently found have put us in a good place. But even though that this is water that works its way through metered water, it's not unaccounted for water, they're actually paying for it, it still causes the community to be burdened, and it needs to be controlled. If we don't control it now, we'll never control it. So this is the right approach. It's not the 2.9 times like New York City charges us, but I think this will work in the right direction. And the facilities that this affects, we've already met with them, and we've given them the heads up. So it's not like it's going to be a surprise. They know that this has happened, and I've talked to these facilities in the past 6 months and told them, that we were going to be going in this direction, and they need to conserve.
Okay. All right. Other questions on the board?
No, I'm prepared to vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, letter B, budget modification, Kilbrook Sewer Improvements, Capital Project 2016. Whereas the village engineer has requested and recommended additional funding for the Kilbrook Sewer Improvements Capital Project in order to provide appropriations for change order number 15 in the amount of $211,155.79. Now therefore be it resolved that the budget for the Kilbrook Sewer Improvements Capital Project is modified for an additional $211,156 to a total authorized budget in the amount of $5,349,156, and which is to be funded by inter-fund transfers from the general water and sewer funds in 2016 as follows. Total increase in general water and sewer fund appropriations, $211,156. Decrease general fund appropriations, $70,000. Total increased water and sewer funds appropriated fund balance, $141,156. Increased capital projects fund appropriations, $211,156. To increase to capital project estimated revenues, $211,156. The Kilbrook Sewer Improvements current budget, $5,138,000. Amended budget, $5,349,156. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Sorry.
On the board.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about, maybe Paul could talk about why we're doing this.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees.
Good evening.
Thank you for considering this resolution at a work session. As you can see, it's a transfer of funds from three different, the three different funds that we administer, the water, sewer, and general fund. This was an appropriate measure that was coordinated by our treasurer, Mr. Warren, because this change order on a project which was to date spent fully out of the sewer fund and debt service was not a direct correlation to any of the sanitary sewer work. This was a separate and distinct appended item that we were going to give to this contractor to get, since he's mobilized in the area where this work is taking place. We did realize, I believe, an economy of scale because he's been there and his equipment was there and some of it is still there. So when he demobilized, he was also going to accomplish this demolition work. I had brought this to your view probably about a little over a month ago, maybe up to 2 months, and stalled a little bit because we had to identify any potential hazardous remediation, and there was asbestos identified in the rear building. So we filed an asbestos plan with New York State, and we needed the variances associated with that type effort. We've received those now from the state with a retained asbestos contractor, and we had to secure some agreements to do some asbestos monitoring during demolition, which we will do once demolition commences. But the key point here in the transfers is that it's from all three funds, because it's generally third of the total expenditure, because the yard itself and the buildings historically have facilitated work efforts by all three departments: the water, our sanitary sewer efforts, and our general fund efforts. So that's a fair and equitable funding source, we believe, so that we brought it to you forth in that way tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I just wanted you to name the location of where we're doing this, that's all, so everybody knows.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is down on Water Street, at the foot of Central Avenue. There is a concrete block building, one-story block building that has maybe 10 to 15 garage doors. We are doing some refurbishment of that building. We're fixing a roof condition and some concrete issues on that building. And I spoke to the building inspector in advance, the village's building inspector, and he said if we make that restoration, he would lift the long-standing condemnation on that building, which was from a fire a few years back. And we'll be able to use that until the board sees fit to use that facility for some other reason via RFP or maybe a village area. And the right side of the creek, if you will, looking from Water Street, every building that you see on that side will be demolished to grade, and all components of that building, including the hazardous material will be taken off-site and disposed of properly with all the chain of custodies, et cetera. And the masonry components of that building will be crushed and graded in place. Everything's done with a permit, internal permit with the building department, and all the record keeping for the remediation is also filed with the state. So when we're done, you're going to have a clear lot on the right side of the brook, the Killbrook, looking from Water Street, and on the left you'll have a usable building on the left side, which we'll continue to do until we're not.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to point out that this is a site that has a lot of municipal purpose right now for us. I believe a lot of our organics are sort of assembled there, as well as now that we're going to refurbish this building, we have an opportunity to use it for some storage.
Yeah.
It also is a place from which we can launch other projects and other things that we want to do.
And we
within
still
the
do, correct.
And,
yeah.
and we currently do that now. So I want everybody to understand that we're doing this because we want to improve this lot, and we also want to encourage and continue the municipal use that it does for all the three departments, the general, sewer, and water funds.
I'm glad you said that. What it does do is it allows us to partner with folks like Con Ed when they come in, and then subcontractors to our own work, like the water lining and the LED replacement. Those folks all mobilize out of that yard, and doing so, they don't leave their material or their trucks or any of their work equipment that's not in place for protection of traffic out of that yard with the appropriate agreements and insurances and what have you. So you keep that off of the street and out of the residential areas, and they mobilize out of there. And all their materials are not stored on the street like is done in a lot of municipalities. They're stored there. So it's really a very clean operation for what it's doing, and it's keeping all that operation away from the residential areas particularly.
Okay. Is everyone ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter C, resolution in support of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce sponsored pop-up Spirits of the Holiday Market for 2016. Whereas the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce has conveyed a request to the village for consideration of a proposed pop-up holiday market in the Market Square area of downtown to be called Spirits of the Holiday for future local and regional handcrafted brews, spirits, and culinary goods, as well as gift items. And whereas, given the success of the chamber-supported weekly farmers market, the board is amendable to supporting such an effort by the Chamber. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby supports the efforts of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce to sponsor a pop-up holiday market in the Market Square area of downtown to be called Spirits of the Holiday for the dates of Friday, December 2nd through Sunday, December 3rd, 2016, and authorizes the village manager to enter into any and all agreements with the Chamber in furtherance of the proposed market, with such agreements being subject to review and approval of the Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
Can we, I
yeah,
just
the
want to
dates
point
are-
out that the dates are...
The dates
I
Should
don't
be
know.
Sunday, December 4th.
Right.
Sorry.
Just one weekend, right?
Yep.
So December 2nd through December 4th,
Yes.
2016.
Any other comments?
Do I have a motion as amended?
So moved?
Second.
Did you want to comment?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, I don't want to keep everybody here late, which
Yeah.
is sort of
We
become
had a
our MO.
presentation, a complete presentation on this at a work session appended to a legislative session. So
Right.
it's only appropriate that now we have a legislative session appended to a work session. You had asked the chamber to come if you had any questions. The members of the chamber are here, so or we are prepared to vote. You can move forward.
I'm pleased that the Chamber is here.
Well, I just want to say that I think anything that we're doing downtown to support small businesses, whoever's watching, I hope they start putting a save the date in their calendar so that there's a lot of support as we go into that time of the year. That's it.
Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I entertain a motion to adjourn into work session?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk, for joining us for the legislative session, and Manager Zambrano. Now
Thank you,
transition to the
Mayor,
work session.
Mayor Garrity. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Tonight, as you can see, we have a very robust agenda. And the first item on the agenda tonight, we have invited Mr. Ed Weinstein to present to the board the updated plans for the village, for the proposed village dock or pier, as was requested by the board at the work session of April the 13th. So, and the reason again that we brought it back this soon is because there's some time sensitivity to this if we are going to proceed with the design that's being proposed, and be able to apply for some grant opportunities that are forthcoming in the next few weeks. So with that, Mr. Weinstein, come on up. So we do have a PowerPoint presentation. Joe, could you? Yeah. Yes. The what Mr. Weinstein is presenting tonight, we forwarded to the board actually earlier too, so you do have them, but I think for the public's benefit. No, no.
Not mine.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. So as you recall, at the last session, work session, there was some public comment, and the trustees asked that we do another study to explore the possibility of doing a larger pier, and that's what we have done. So I will just skip these first few. That's the existing conditions with a little stub. And so this was the first proposal, which was a 100-foot extension with a 40-foot return L-shaped and some floating docks for transient vessels. So we've now done two other options. Cost-wise and area-wise, they're about the same. The configuration is just a little different. So this is a 200-foot extension and a 100-foot leg off it, and and we're also showing on this one another kind of structure which might be worth considering. They're using a lot of these. There are several in New York City. It's called an eco dock, and it's a multi-purpose dock that is used. It has one low-level platform for small, car type boats, canoes, and kayaks, and a larger dock for other kinds of vessels. But this kind of configuration, or or if it were just straight, and so this straight extension is something similar to what was proposed by your own committee. Gareth Holm provided some of that material to me, and so we've incorporated that into this suggestion. We didn't have enough time to change the floating docks, but if you did either of those option 2 or 3 configurations, you might want to increase the number of transient vessels, or that could be done over time, once you see whether there's a real demand for people wanting to, bring their boats to us and dine at the restaurant, walk around the village. So that is what we have. We have the 3 options. The cross-section would be the same, it would just be longer. This is a sort of an idea of what those eco docks look like. One is in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. One is on the Hudson River in Inwood, and that's about it. Any questions?
I think, thanks for doing this for us, by the way, and without spending yet another 40 minutes on the explanation between the dock and the pier concept,
Okay.
I'm just going to speak in English this time and ask you, what part of this is walkable for people? What part of this is this only for boats, or is this something that we could put benches in eventually, or?
Absolutely. I think the purpose of this is not only to provide a berth for visiting vessels like the Clearwater or any of the visiting small atoll ships, because you're still limited as to depth. The water here never gets really deeper than 12 or 13 feet, so some of these boats that they're talking about for that will be like steamboats on the Hudson, like the SS Columbia or the Hudson Valley Line, which is another one. They may draw deeper water. I know that Columbia draws 16 feet, so without dredging, this pier could not accommodate that vessel. Those vessels are about 200 feet long and a 60-foot beam, so the length is okay, and if there were dredging done, they could be accommodated. But the deck of the pier is a public pier. Could put benches, you could put, lighting, and, it's kind of, it depends on, what our discussions with DEC and the Corps of Engineers would allow. I mean, I'm a believer in getting people out onto the water. I mean, historically, there were lovely recreation piers. The only remaining one is the one in Yonkers, which was designed and built as a recreation pier around the turn of the century. A wider pier might allow for more activities. But even a pier like this, if you recall, some years ago, there was the American Woodwind Symphony Orchestra that travels around the country on a floating stage. Something like that could tie up here. There are a lot of possibilities, and this could get a lot of use as a public pier.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to come back to my seat, and because I don't think there's a lot of questions that we're going to have about the drawings, although I do, we received some email correspondence from Gareth Huffam, who you mentioned, as well as to recent past Commodores of the Asting Boat and Canoe Club, which is the neighboring property. So I just, before the board opens up for questions, I just didn't know if our boating, environmentally thoughtful people who wanted to weigh in publicly or call anything to the attention of the board or ask any questions. That's the three of you I'm asking.
Yes, that would be you guys.
Tom, Liz, Gareth, any or all of you want to briefly comment or ask a question? If you do, please come to the microphone.
Not really.
Okay. Okay, good.
Tom Earl, Ossining Boat and Canoe. I would just hope that these aren't final drawings, because directly adjacent to this drawing is the 100-year mooring area of the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, and we need that space for our moorings, and I'm hoping that we can work with the neighbors to work something out. I'm sure something can be worked out for this so that everybody can have what they want. So I just hope these drawings aren't final.
They're definitely not final. We haven't even picked which one of them we'd move forward with. As I know that you and anybody who watched last week is aware, we wanted to be sure that when the potential scenarios were brought to the Environmental Advisory Council, that they had enough information to be able to determine consistency with the LWRP. The EAC, then that's the only point that we're at right now. The EAC does not have the authority to approve or not approve any designs, and I think that it's very reasonable to assume that the village would want to coordinate with the neighboring marinas to make sure that the waterfront
you
is
for
continued to be
considering our-
used by any and all community members. That's the point, is to get more people out on the water enjoying it, not to undermine anybody's enjoyment of it. So
Thank you.
that's a reasonable question, and I think I can reasonably say that we would want to talk to our neighbors. Liz, did you want to comment further? Welcome. Are you wearing an
Elizabeth
OBCC
Feldman.
hat, or are you wearing a
Sure,
councilwoman hat?
I'll wear my OBCC hat. I'll wear my resident hat. How's that?
Okay, very good.
As a resident. I think it's great that people can come to the restaurant. I'd like to see the angle at a point where everybody can use the water, where they would have an approach and be able to maintain a channel. If you're having vessels come in, there'd have to be not only enough room for the docks, but enough room for there to be a channel for them to, come in and come out. The docks, you'd have to talk about, can anybody just kind of wander out onto them? Is there going to be safety? Are there going to be people watching them? What kind of insurance? And that's not the cheapest thing in the world. And there are a lot of little things that we want to look at as a village, not to open ourselves up to liability. Just from
I'm gonna
being on that
trust the
side.
Corporation Counsel.
On
who's
the other
over-
side.
Yeah, okay.
Just
Thank
from
you.
being on the other side of that. But just the angles of it's a cove. So it's kind of like working with a circle. So whereas they originally came out straight from their land and we came out straight from our property line, they do converge at one point, and we have to be careful that we're not running into each other.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
that
you.
heads up. Any members of the board want to ask further questions or offer further comments before we're able to, I can't even remember, what are we, so we already we've already made the referral to the EAC. So at this point, it would just be a matter of Lynn, Lynn Brooks-Avni, the Director of Planning, who works closely with all the land use boards. She's here with us tonight. If there's any other questions or things we want her to be mindful of, now would be an appropriate time for the board members to comment. Yeah, sure, John.
Yeah, I would just, excuse me. I guess I have a concern about proposed option 2 just because of the angle of that, and it swings right into the Boat and Canoe Club's area. And, you know, I looking at it and how much space it takes up and looking at the, I realize all that area in the water is not necessarily owned by the Boat and Canoe Club. It's owned by the state, but I think we need to be respectful of the Boat and Canoe Club and their their mooring areas where they're used to putting their moorings. And conceptually, I certainly like the idea. I just don't like the way it's implemented. I see the straight pier to be the way to go. But
Okay.
that's just my initial impression. So.
I guess my only question for Lynn would be, when the EAC is making these considerations with consistency with the LWRP, it's not typical that they're considering 3 different scenarios and the impact for each of those scenarios, and that's essentially what we're asking them to do. While it may be that option number 2, as designed for other reasons, may not be the one that we move forward with, is it still appropriate to have the EAC consider all of the options that are presented for the environmental impact, for consistency with the LWRP?
Just to confirm, you're asking that you guys want them to, the board, sorry, to consider all 3 options and weigh in on the LWRP and how that, I'm just make sure I'm hearing you correctly.
I think that's what we're asking, because we're not sure how we're going to move forward with which design and how the final design is, but this is, everybody who knows more than me about docks feel that we've provided enough range of considerations that we will be able to get good quality information from the EAC as far as the environmental impact? I'm seeing nodding from Gareth.
The EAC will look at all 3 options, and they'll probably come back with a checklist, and obviously if there's something on the checklist for one of the options that doesn't comply with LWRP, you can decide how you want to move forward with that option, or if you want to move forward with that option.
Great. And Gareth, I'm happy to see you nodding, because you, for many years, were a member of the Village EAC, so you know exactly what this process is that we're talking about. So it's you're a well-informed opinion to be nodding from the peanut gallery, so thank you.
On 3 options.
All right. So thank you very much, Mr. Weinstein. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Tom, Gareth, and Liz for weighing in.
So,
Next
I'm
up.
sorry, so then, is the board then, once we get the consistency review from the EAC, then the board would like to see these designs go to the next step, so that, how do you foresee the next step? I mean, I think we need to make that determination now, so that we know when to bring it back to you.
Well, there is some time sensitivity so that we can have the application for the grant.
Right, the whole idea was for the grant, right? This
Correct,
is the whole
yes.
exercise
So,
here.
right.
So the EAC meets, I believe, Lynn, the first Tuesday of May? Is that correct?
That's next week.
The 10th, or the 9th? Oh, you're right. Okay, thank you, the 10th. So then I guess after the 10th, we'll see if they come back and they give us some parameters on what to consider, and maybe that will help further define what design we'd want to see move forward. And, yeah, I guess it needs to come back for a work session then. So
What's the deadline for the grant? piece?
I don't,
That's
I
the
know
whole-
it's sometime in June, so we need to, June what? The end of June, yes.
So why don't
need
we
to-
see what the, we have 2 work sessions in May. Why don't we see if it makes sense to do it for the first work session? If not, it seems like quite possibly it could be the second work session in May, and we would still have adequate time for the grant application to
Okay,
go forward,
very
right?
good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next item on tonight's agenda is is ETPA program discussion with the board. We have invited Mr. Lesnick to present to the board again. If you recall, again, this was discussed at the board's work session on March 23rd, and we had asked Mr. Lesnick to come back with additional information for the board to consider. So, with that, Mr. Lesnick.
Thank you very much, Abe. Thank you, Mayor, Board.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back. So, just to summarize to anybody who's watching this for the first time at home, or anybody in the audience, ETPA is the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974, and what it stipulates is that should the village or any municipality vote to participate, then properties of 6 units or more, that's the minimum the state sets. You could set a higher minimum, although looking at the numbers here, it wouldn't really make much of a difference if it was 6 or 10, but 6 is the minimum number. Built before 1974 are subject to a whole series of protections for the tenants in terms of rent overcharges, in terms of service complaints, in terms of a whole bureaucracy that the State Division of Housing and Community Renewal operates. In addition, the landlords can only raise rents pursuant to the rates set by the Westchester Rent Guidelines Board. Those meetings are in June every year. The rates are set in October. They tend to be 1%, 2%, 3% per year. It's based on a survey they do of owners' expenses, etc. In addition, just so we have all the letters and the acronyms right, SCREE and DREE, the Senior Citizen Rent Increase Exemption Program, and the Disabled Rent Increase Exemption Program are programs where lower income residents who are paying more than a third of their income in rent and making under a certain dollar amount, again the state maximum is $50,000, would have that increase deferred. Increase eliminated. Instead, the municipality would make up to the landlord in the form of an abatement the incremental increase that it's foregoing. So, one of the statutory requirements of ETPA is that you need to show that there's a vacancy rate of 5% or less, and that can be for the whole village, or it could be of the class of units that we're looking at. We put you in touch with Alec Roberts from Community Housing Innovations, and the village was good enough to provide him with a bunch of data. Even before he got the data, he was able to ascertain that the vacancy rate in the village of Ossining is 3.28%, as compared to 1.4% in the whole county, and the whole state of New York only has a 1.67%. So you're all clearly below the 5%. Specifically, he got the list of all the buildings in the village and was able to determine which ones were built prior to 1974 and which ones had 6 units or more. He came up with 35 buildings. Some of them are in compounds where they're jointly owned by the same company, but we're considering them separate buildings for the purpose of this. A total of 732 units. He polled the owners of those units. I believe he was able to get somewhere in the order of 550 units accounted for of the 732. Certainly a statistically enough significant study to show that the vacancy rate is 1.23%. So there's no question that you qualify. If the board is so inclined to go forward based on this study, then I could certainly work with the Corporation Council to draft legislation. There was legislation in a dozen different municipalities in Westchester County joining ETPA, and at the same time legislation for SCREE and for DREE, and then you could schedule a public hearing. You could use the list of all the property owners to notice the landlords as well as notice the tenants if you were so inclined. And I stand ready to answer questions.
Anyone on the board have questions for Mr. Lesnick?
Well, I thank you for providing the information to us. I think that on the face of it, it's something that I'm very interested in pursuing. And I would like to understand better the financial impact. And that was something we sort of briefly discussed when you came here last. I think it probably would be something that the treasurer would probably have to look at.
So the financial impact is twofold. Number one is the state has not since 1974 raised the rate that they charge the municipality. So they charge $10 per unit. So there are 732 units, so that would be $7,320. However, that is a pass-along because that is allowed to be passed along to the property owners, so it is of zero impact on your budget. The other fiscal impact would be for scree and dree, and typically we get between 1 and 1.5% of all ETPA residents who are eligible for scree and dree in Westchester, Rockland, and Nassau County. So again, with 732 units, you could project out maybe 10 households would be using scree or dree. And in the example that I often give of the woman who's been living in her studio for a long time and she's only paying $800 a month rent, and it goes up 1.5 points, that goes to $820. That $20 times 12 months in the year, $240 would be her savings. That would be your abatement that you would offer to the property owners. So if you have 10 of those, you're talking about $2,400 in the first year. Because we deal with 2-year leases, in the second year it's expected to be about the same. In the third year, since the increases tend to be 1%, 2%, 3%, if you had the same sort of increase, that might be double. So instead of in year 3 it costing the village $2,400, it might cost you $5,000 in year 3. And in year 5, it might cost you $7,500, $8,000. The only other expense for scree and dree is if there is what they call a major capital improvement, an MCI, then those costs also get passed down to the tenants. Similarly, those exemptions would get passed on to the needy tenants, and the abatements might be a little bit higher. On the other hand, you guys are doing reval, and when you do a major capital improvement, that improves the value of the building, so you're going to get more taxes from that building anyway. So that too is somewhat of a wash. ETPA, you can do ETPA without doing scree and dree. You cannot do scree and dree without doing ETPA. So they're two separate costs. But glad to work with the treasurer and anybody else on the expenses.
I do have a couple of quick questions. Do you happen to know which was the last municipality in Westchester County that passed this type of law?
Sure. The last one was actually Croton. Abe knows, and Croton was unusual because they were looking at a particular building or two buildings. I don't remember if it was one or two, and they passed it at 20 units or more, which is within their right to do, but unusual. Most of the places in Westchester County did 6 units or more. Most of the places in Westchester County came in 74, 75, 76 when ETPA was created, and there was a lot of discussion about it. For the most part, the municipalities south of 287 joined in, and with the exception of Croton, I don't think anybody else north of 287 picked in because there weren't that many buildings that qualified. If you look, and I assume you got this material, but if you didn't, we'll make sure it gets distributed. But the number of units in the 35 buildings, I think only 2 of them have 6, a few of them have 10, some of them have 12, and then some of them have a lot more, like 91 on Charter Circle. So, again, you could tweak it. You could decide not to do 6. I am going to recommend that Alex clean this up and make it a little bit more readable, and we distribute it in the next couple of days.
Yes, this is more like for the board than anything else. Thank you for all the homework that was done in regards to the properties. Because of what we have done and what we may be able to do to pass this law, I think to me it's important to have or recognize those landlords and have them come in before we pass a law to engage to a conversation and have them be aware of what the village board is looking into do. And just to have, again, a clear transparency in that regards. And I think it will be better for them to understand what that program is and how it will either affect them or not affect them at all. Because it seems like it's a very good balance and what that is. And like, I agree with what John said, we also need to understand what is the financial impact within the village and what that means, so.
Well, I think at this point, we don't, it sounds like you're going to work with Corporation Council to draft up a potential legislation for consideration, and then it would have to come for a public hearing, and I think it would be appropriate to not just notice it for the public generally as a public hearing, but to specifically reach out to these property owners and perhaps the tenants as well for these properties. It's a very clear, finite list that should be notified and then invited to come and ask questions and learn about it at the public hearing. Would that address your concern as well as probably be a wise way to move forward with consideration?
I think it's just a way for us to, to make sure that they understand what this law is and what that means. It's not just for us to do. It's just for we work for the community. So at that point, we want them to understand what is that our village board is doing.
Okay, so Corporation Council, would you like to comment? 'Cause
Sure.
You're doing all this work.
Sure. I come to a meeting and get homework of my own. Thank you. I just want to make sure that the guidance is clear. Are we looking to target the 6 or more units, or are you, I can certainly put it in as a highlighted number, and when we come back to work session to discuss it further, we can talk about the pros and cons of that as well.
Well, I just want to, I'm looking at the list here, and it's a little bit tough to make sense of exactly what each column is, but if I'm understanding this correctly, the column that says unit in it, let's say, for example, there's one on Broad Avenue that has 10 units. That seems to be one of the smallest. There's one on Croton Avenue that has 9 units. Everything else is double digits, correct?
There are a couple down 27 Claremont. It looks like it has 6 units, but it does look like that's part of a larger complex run by Cortland Ridge LLC.
Oh, okay. I was looking at a different unit. I was looking at a different column. I guess that's what I'm not entirely clear on what these units are.
I believe the
Okay.
third column that says units is the one. And
Okay.
there are 2 of them that say 6.
Okay.
A couple of them that say 10.
Now I see.
1 or 2 that say 11, 12, and then it goes on higher from there.
Okay. So if we were to have if we were to go with the 6 units or more, which is what this was assuming, there are 2 buildings that would be in that level, and then there are a handful that would be in the 10 or more. So if we were to do it any higher than 6 or more, we would just be eliminating those 2 buildings, those 12 units from being included. It seems, I'm inclined to just draft it with the standard 6 units or more, but we would always have the option to revisit that if there were a reason to during the public hearing process.
Sure. I can do it that way.
Okay.
Why don't we start there and
Okay.
then
Thanks.
go from there?
Very good. We'll talk.
Questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming again to our meeting. Chuck Lesnick's becoming a regular in the Village of Ossining on work session evenings.
So we will, of course, we will schedule the next round of meetings with the board, and I think it's certainly a very good idea to invite the landlords and the tenants of all those buildings to make them aware of what the village's intention is. So I think
Good,
it's a good
because
idea.
that'll probably be Joe Saratani doing that from your office. So sending out all
So
the
you get homework too, Joe. Welcome
All right.
to the group.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda tonight is the Downtown Development Fund Council would like to report to the board the findings of the survey they did not long ago. So John Saltzman and Andy Kaplan are here, as well as Edith Santiago and Juby.
Where's Juby? There she is.
Actually, Joe
whole council's
DiGillespie is also part of the council, as well
The
as
whole council
trustee,
is here, yes.
Trustee Levin is also
Very
part of the council.
engaged
So welcome. John, we have your presentation there, actually. No, we do have a
It's all queued up there, Joe?
No, we have one already. It's up there already? Okay.
You want hard copies? Because we did print hard copies of things.
I
That's good, we can-
forwarded to the board.
We have it on our phones already.
Try to be green here, John. Old habits die hard. Nobody knows.
It's in red. Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay, so the council has been meeting for a fair amount of time. We actually restarted, in, I guess, last June, thereabouts. And in that time, took a little bit of a hiatus for the summer for a variety of reasons, and then came back in full steam in early autumn. During that time, we had several meetings with focus groups with different stakeholders around the community, focusing on the downtown. And then most recently, we did a business survey, or a survey of businesses of the downtown. And that survey, it's really even though it's a survey, it's still more of a qualitative survey. So we have to look at it not as statistically accurate, statistically meaningful, but we need to look at it as directional, that this is what 23 responses had to say about the downtown. Now, having said that, at the same time, there's a lot of kind of affirmation, anecdotally and through our other meetings, that really play into pretty much the same information. So we emailed with the help of the chamber. They're very instrumental in providing the database and the and doing the actual mailing of the survey. So we emailed to 460 companies. We had 23 responses. Interestingly, 14 of the companies had been in business in Ossining for under 5 years.
Is that under or over?
Yeah, I think that could be flip-flop.
It says greater than. You mean less than, though. Okay.
Yeah, I never can remember which way it goes.
It's less than, though, right?
Less than. It's pointing to less than. And there's a mixture of both retail and service businesses, about 50-50 split in the responses. So the presentation really is summarizing the survey. We've worked very hard not to editorialize this, because probably anybody in the community could sort of write these answers, but we really wanted to bring it from the data and bring it from the responses. So we really worked hard at doing that. So we're really looking at the facts. What's, I think, most, kind of very, very interesting is that why are the respondents, why are these businesses here? Two basic reasons. One is that they live here, and the other is that there's affordability to that. So kind of interpreting that, one could say, and maybe here's my editorial hat, that it's, businesses are here because it's part of their lifestyle, that they believe in being here, or it's important for them to be close to home. But then going back to facts, we asked what's the health of your business, and you see here there's a relatively even split with a small, slight decrease. I know it doesn't add up to 100%, so there's something missing there, but it's close. So it's a relatively even split between healthy, we're doing okay, or we're really not doing great, or we're struggling. And what I also found interesting is that the marketing is mostly word of mouth. That's the main vehicle that the businesses are using. Now, I didn't disaggregate that between service business and retail business specifically, but it's word of mouth. Some social media is about half the respondents, a little over 60% of the respondents, and then a variety of traditional activity. That's coupons, print ads, and the like. We wanted to know why people like Ossining and what they consider the best things. And again, I don't think there's any surprises here. The architecture is historically interesting. People really respond to that very positively. People also respond to the fact that it's a diverse community, and that's something that people like, but that also presents a bit of a contradiction at times. The walkability, the proximity, and the farmers markets were all items that were mentioned as positives. Now, interestingly, when asked to describe the village and the downtown in particular, mostly negative, but what keeps coming through over and over and over and over again is this untapped potential. People feel that Ossining has just this, it's ready to bloom, it's ready to bloom. At the same time, they say, it's really messy. It's not well maintained, and that goes for both public and private sector responsibilities. That the parking is inadequate, that there's not enough foot traffic for business, and that there's a shortage of interesting spaces, and not all businesses are welcoming to English speakers. And, again, asking you what the biggest problems are, the parking is always there. It's always going to be there no matter how many parking spaces we have, I have a feeling, but that's still what people talk about. But I think more importantly is, people feel that there's a lack of vision, a lack of support from the government, that you're hanging out there alone, and that we don't feel like the municipality is really behind the business and the community in the way that people imagine it should be. And that they cited both code enforcement, care of public spaces, and a tepid welcome in terms of new businesses and how easy it is to do business. But again, these are all answers that were given, not our words, but the words of the respondents. And again, variety of the types of retail stores. So looking at what would help the downtown, not surprisingly, more hip restaurants and retail, entertainment, both for kids and adults, and professional spaces. Actually, there was a surprising number for professional businesses to move in. We kind of broke it down into categories, and when you add them all up, it was a significant number of people saying we need professional businesses in town. And to a lesser degree, hospitality and service. What also would help the downtown, and again, the negative to the positive is to maintain and to beautify. And again, that goes both public and private. And to fill in the empty space, to build on the lots that need to be built to make it a complete village downtown. Some of them mentioned and implied items, so, we didn't have the numbers behind it, but these were, you get a couple of people kind of responding to it. That there is too much healthcare on Main Street, that there's enough affordable housing, and how one defines affordable is subject to, I think, a lot of discussion, and that there is a divide between the Spanish and the English-speaking communities. So this, I think, is the most important and most troublesome finding that we had. We asked a question as to whether you would recommend the village to another business to come here. And what we found is that the majority of respondents would not.
Could you explain to me what is the 1 through 10?
Okay, so the 1 through 10 is from I definitely would not recommend it, stay away, to 10 is I highly recommend it. And this is what's called a net promoter question, and it's used in survey work. So the 5 is at the middle. Maybe I recommend it, maybe I wouldn't recommend it. It can go either way.
Identified the 5s and 6s as detractors. What would be a passive?
Pardon?
What would be a passive if 5 and 6 is detractor?
What would be passive? The passives would probably be in the 7s and 8. There are none.
Okay.
So people either say no or they say yes. But the majority say no, 75%. That to me is troublesome. And that's something that, I guess needs to be worked on. So we made conclusions on both sides of the aisle, on the government side and on the private sector side, because clearly work is needed on both sides. The feeling that came through from the survey, again, this is from the survey, is that the government hasn't shown the leadership, it hasn't used the tools available to it to set and manage a vision, to enforce codes, and to use its bully pulpit as a, but I'll just leave it at that, to use its bully pulpit. On the other hand, the private sector also has not done its part to create a vibrant and welcoming place. Storefronts are shabby, the market is passive. It's not a welcoming, you walk down the street and the stores don't really welcome you. They certainly don't welcome everyone. I'm going to end, I think I'm going to end with this. Am I going to end with this? Yes, I am. So this is a little bit of an editorial. Okay, we think that Ossining has a conundrum on our hands. There's a feeling of potential that the downtown is on the cusp of something good. I mean, that you just hear that when you talk to people. We were just down in one of the restaurants, had a quick bite of dinner, and he moved here recently, and he's very happy here, and he just thinks that Ossining's ready to happen. However, we haven't really taken all the steps that need to be taken, adequate steps to demonstrate that commitment to making it happen. And I know a lot's going on. That's, some of it we see, some of it we don't see. But as a general feeling from the public's perception, haven't taken enough steps to demonstrate commitment. And more importantly, I think we don't seem to be able to establish collaborative working relationships. A lot of organizations are doing their own thing, and they just, they cross in the night, they go to each other's activities, but they seldom sit down and actually look to kind of work out this common malaise that we have. And, it's sort of an accumulated malaise that we just need to be able to break through. And I think that's where kind of the leadership is necessary. So I'm going to leave my part here. Andy's going to do a presentation on code and kind of some of the code issues. And then we're going to come back and we can finish up the last 3 slides here. And Juby's going to talk a little bit about recommendations.
I'm being non-green. I don't know if anybody needs handouts.
We don't have that, right? I mean, I know I have it, but I don't think everybody else got it. It was in color, I guess.
Same presentation. We gotta,
It's still in color.
I guess we gotta close out of this one.
There's a reason he did this. Do you really want this on the slides? Sure.
Joe?
Sure.
Might
Did you get back
get to the other,
to
the other
one?
files.
Did you put the one on?
No, that's the only thing I got this.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Gonna be my photo guy? Sure. Okay, so these are sort of just code violations, as our survey indicated. There's a lot going on in terms of the appearance and issues with code. So as our survey indicates, this is the negative optic that many people see with regard to Ossining's business and business properties. Now, if you were selling your house, you'd want to stage it in the best light possible. You'd clean it up, you'd give it some fresh paint, you'd allow the light in, And as a village, we're allowing ourselves to be shown off to many others as undesirable and, frankly, even slum-like in some cases. We need to recognize as a village and as a community that this is how we stage ourselves every day to anybody that lives here, to anybody that comes here. Now, these slides aren't meant to solely single out specific businesses. They're meant to convey, or really give a face to what we were talking about in the survey, some glaring weaknesses that we as a community, including village officials, administration, property, and business owners, have to address together in order to make our downtown and our village as a whole more appealing to our own residents, to visitors, and to prospective business owners. These slides are filled with codes that are already on our books that are not only not being enforced, but are disregarded more and more with every passing day.
Lynn, you don't have to write all this down. He'll give you all of the pictures.
It's all here. Here are just a couple of examples. Exterior property area, exterior wall, code 16217, exterior walls, surface painted in accordance with acceptable standards, and siding must be in good repair. I mean, clearly that's not the case there. Abandoned cars. I mean, that's in the lot right behind that building. There's another one just to the right of that that's burnt out, basically. Interior structure, sanitation, free of kept maintained in a clean and sanitary condition, free from accumulation of rubbish and garbage. That's right inside that building. Exterior structures, again, free of holes, breaks, loose or rotting boards or timbers. You can see the flashing on top there is ripping. Again, exterior acceptable standards. Use of adhesive substances are prohibited. Every sign in that storefront is taped on with packing tape, basically, is how those are in the window. Again, free of rotting boards or timbers. If that's not rotting boards or timbers, I'm not sure what is. Free from hazards. That property that's for sale, you can walk right in, and it's potential cause of injury, and there's litter all over it. Garbage containers, property owner's responsibility to provide approved containers for storage of garbage, etc. Clearly, there are residents that are putting their garbage out, in public receptacles. Again, adhesive substances. This was just 2 weeks ago, stuck to a wall with duct tape right there on Main Street. Length of placement. This is a handwritten sign in one of the nail salons that, the law says any structure, it cannot remain affixed for longer than 30 days. That's been in that window for the 9 years I've been living here. And obstructions, selling or display of merchandise of any kind on any sidewalk is prohibited. There's several mannequins and other items that are out on the sidewalks regularly, that just are, like I said, direct violation of those laws. So the codes mentioned here, they're just the tip of the iceberg. There's a number of regulations, including some centered on adult entertainment, particularly downtown, that also contribute to the negative stereotyping that continues to pervade, frankly, about Ossining. So in order to combat this, one of the council's recommendations is that we have some meetings, joint meetings that we hold that can feature the village planner, the Chamber of Commerce, the village board and administrative representation, and the chief of police, so that we can begin to identify and work towards addressing these concerns. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Juby, who's going to kind of wrap things up.
Hi, everyone. So as a member of the council, we have come up with some initial recommendations. What you'll see here are three main recommendations that we have as a result of the findings from the business survey as well as the code enforcement. So, excuse me, these recommendations are based on focus groups, the business owner survey, and obviously many council discussions. The council considers these recommendations as phase one recommendations that set the stage for future work. It's the council's intention that funds be used judiciously now, and then reserving sufficient funds for high leverage products in the mid-future. So as you can see, recommendation 1 is a comprehensive inventory of downtown property. This includes, so what we consider the downtown property is the Route 9 to the waterfront, or the Broad Street to the Hollow. It should include a description of all the properties within that space, including ownership, current use, whether it's business or retail, the vacancy rate, the duration of vacancy, the conditions of the buildings, etc. The inventory of available parking, which includes access and fee structure for use. That also includes, how many permits there are being used, etc. As well as culminating all of this information into a database that is searchable and that's easily accessible. So if we move to our second recommendation, this recommendation is to establish an active, we are proud of our downtown campaign or something along those lines. The purpose of this is we recommend that the village should initiate a campaign to make the downtown area litter and trash free, to make a steadfast commitment towards enforcement, and make a pledge to implement this campaign by the village and the current businesses that are located in this area. Lastly, our third recommendation is, again, to tack on to Andy's portion of the presentation. It would be to initiate a program of incentive and penalty for non-compliance with codes that are currently on the books, as well as a code review that should be undertaken to update a guide, to kind of guide the look, feel, and behavior of the downtown property owners and businesses. That concludes our council's recommendations. I don't know if Joe has a few conclusions. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Board. So obviously you see this all culminated from the survey work that we started. The Downtown Committee is a committee driven by a fund that the Harbor Square Development sponsored, contributed to the fund. There's a pool of funds there to be implemented and deployed on some projects relating to the downtown. But I guess the first thing is to realize what the downtown is and realize what components of the downtown you have, the ingredients of the downtown, because, I've spent several years on the committee myself, and I know the Downtown Committee has funded a economic development manager, which was a position through the village. And that individual did do a lot of work trying to bring new business and energize the downtown. And I think there's a general concern of its current status. There's a general concern of issues such as parking. And there's no readily usable tool that one can refer someone to from the outside to say, this is what we have. Here's how we operate. These are the codes we abide by. So I think ultimately tonight, in the grander scheme of things, there definitely needs to be some effort towards master planning. When we talk about parking, inventorying, and understanding what we have and what businesses might be complementary to the downtown. And there's also these code-driven issues, some being just general enforcement matters, but I think Andy's research in the code also alluded to issues that the code may be somewhat antiquated, and there's some improvement that can be initiated in the code. Now that would require the village to obviously undertake a code review and come from a professional, code review consultant, and come up with some recommendations how to improve or clarify or modify the current code. So basically, planning initiatives and the code issues seem to be the hot buttons. So basically tonight was just a flood of information. I think next we want to move to what are the next steps. It's our thoughts here that ultimately we are going to engage all of us, obviously with the board's approval, to some level of professional consultants to come in and work on these master planning issues and these code related issues. We don't yet have any notion of the economics associated with those evaluations, but I think that would be the next step, is just to try to put all this information together and detail what specific studies or evaluations need to be done. So that's all I have to say. So any other questions?
Well, this is certainly a lot of information.
Are you done? Because, okay. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I was just saying this is a lot of information that we'll need to take in, and I'm sure that Director of Planning and Economic Development will want to reflect on it. And Trustee Levin, you're the liaison to the Downtown
Right.
Development Fund Council. Would you like to comment?
Sure. First of all, two of the people I just want to welcome. I think it's the first time presenting, if I'm not mistaken. Both Edith and Dewey, right? So thank you for coming, because you started in January on all this. This is a lot of information, and I had seen this a couple of weeks ago, and it's gone back and forth. But just for the public, this council is actually very different than most of the boards and committees and councils that we have. The role and responsibility of this council is to help the village and make recommendations for the village on how to spend the fund that sits with the village. It belongs only to the village, and the Board of Trustees has been entrusted with making decisions on how to spend it. This is somewhat of a citizens committee, except for Joe, actually, who represents on this committee the developer, actually. So sometimes there's a confusion, I think, when we hear things about what committees do, and there's so many of them. So I want to make it clear that the goal here is recommendation specific to the expenditure of the fund. Relating to codes and other recommendations is helpful and interesting from the survey, which I think is helpful, and Andy's picture taken, which I already spoke, I think, to village manager about, as with iPhones in everybody's hand, might be helpful given what Andy did, that Andy doesn't do it, but in fact, it's a great way to look at what people see when they drive to work at the train station, what they see when they take their kids. I mean, we all live here. Most of us live here, excuse me. And so I think it's great to see it. Disturbing because it's all the negative stuff. There's no positive pictures that were taken. So it's always, I think, for anybody, even if you watch your own house and you walk around and see all the negatives and never sort of step back and see the positive, I think, always, I think, very difficult to take in. I found it difficult the first time I saw your pictures, as you know, because you saw my reaction when we sat in a room. It was not a pleasant reaction, I have to say. But I had to remind myself that it is very specific with a purpose of saying, hey, these are things we don't like, because there's probably hundreds of things that we do like. That's not being presented, and I think because the idea here is very purposeful. So I do actually look forward to actual, and we've discussed it, to see what you want the board to do. Like, the idea is what we do with a fund that was set up and how you want us to look at it. The board itself will probably also have suggestions as how it wants to spend the money, which any one of us, as you all know, can do individually about that fund. So I really appreciate all the work, and that all of you came here, and Edith owns a business downtown. John also has both a business and is involved in so many things. Andy is a citizen. You're new commuter, grew up here, so it's a really great group, so I appreciate all of the effort. And we are actually looking at some of the things that were brought up. I wish more people were involved in the survey. John did point out that it's more like a focus group rather than a data-driven, survey of some significance, but nevertheless, if you ran a focus group, that would be a very healthy number if it were a focus group. So I appreciate all the work that went on here.
Thank you. Manager Zimbardo?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, I would like to add, I also was privy to this report, to a preview of this report, not the last meeting that the council held, but the previous one. And although I actually see all this when I drive around the village, actually, it is very difficult to accept and to actually see it, visually in a presentation. And I can tell you that there's a few initiatives that we've already started. I mean, we've already started to take a look at the code and how we can manage, some of the issues that affect quality of life in the village. So we're looking at that. But I think that we've also, myself with the rest of the staff, we started a meeting with some of the business owners, and this past Monday, my apologies, we actually had a group of 14 business owners that did attend the business meeting that we held at the library. We had, I think, some pretty positive input from the businesses, and I think that as we begin to change the culture, between government and the residents and the business owners, I think the outlook of and the outcome of this whole thing is going to change. There are some things that we're actually beginning to do as far as also putting a program together to address the litter. It is a big problem, and there are quite a few things that we're already working on. That I think, will certainly benefit and will be in line with what the council is recommending. The other thing that I want to bring up also, which I think is relevant, is actually tomorrow we're going to be holding a meeting with the citizens in the evening that many of the department heads are going to be attending, because I think that this message about, quality of life, we need to reach out to everybody. I think we need everybody's help. Government can certainly do it, but I think we need everybody's help to be able to, accomplish what we want to accomplish and make Ossining the place that it should be.
Can you remind everybody when and where that meeting will be tomorrow?
Certainly. Tomorrow it's at 7 o'clock at the 21 State Street at the fire headquarters from 7 to 8:30. We will be serving refreshments. And we have actually quite a few of the department heads will be there tomorrow. So we hope that if you can just put the word out, that would be great. For those of you that are watching at home, please do spread the word out, because the more people we get there, I think the more responsiveness we're going to be able to get and the more we can accomplish. So I wanted to just mention that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just make a concluding remark?
Certainly.
I think we all see the fund as really a giant lever. So when we look at how we recommend expenditures, we really look to say, how can we kind of use this fund, which is in a certain way found money, not just on projects, but on projects that have high multipliers to them. So, I think that's why the nature of the recommendations that are coming out now are foundational. They're really to build a foundation for, a much stronger planning effort that could actually describe and pull the whole downtown together. So I'd like the board to kind of accept our recommendations with that spirit. So it's really a partnership with the village, with the municipality, and, high leverage, seeking high leverage.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Mayor, can I say one more thing? Actually,
Certainly.
I want to just acknowledge also the fact that the Chamber of Commerce actually is a very large partner, thank you, yes, in this endeavor too. So I want to thank also the Chamber for participating and helping us get the word out to everybody.
Good. Well, thank you all. I see, looking at our agenda, we are actually right on time. Who would have thought? So we've been going for almost an hour and a half now, and we still have some meaty stuff to talk about. So let's take a 5-minute break. How about that? Okay. Back on? Terrific. Okay, we are back on. Welcome back.
The next topic.
Turn your microphone on.
Sorry. The next topic tonight is the village Director of Planning and Development will provide the village board a overview of the village's affordable housing program. She will also discuss with the board a housing needs assessment possibly. So that. Ms. Brooks.
Going to be on the screen again, right? Okay.
I got this.
Okay, so bear with me because I need to use the glasses to read, but I can't see it when I put on the glasses there, so just bear with me for a second. Okay, so tonight I'm going to give you a basic overview of Chapter 62, which is our affordable housing law within the village code. The village is pretty progressive in that we accepted it and we adopted it in 2006, maybe before many other municipalities in Westchester did. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the affordable housing that's in the village, some that's in our program that's run by, and just some affordable housing that exists in the village. The general process, and then we're open for questions. So, I think that, there we go. So, just a definition of affordable. So, when you look it up in the dictionary and take it down, it's basically affordable means that it's within someone's financial means. Our definition in Chapter 62 is that you create units that are pursuant to the 10% set aside, and they're marketed to households at 80% or less of the Westchester County median income. So every residential development that includes 6 or more dwelling units is required to have a set aside, and that set aside is rounded up to the nearest number. So if you come up with that you need 3.5 units, you really have to produce 4. So this applies to both rental and purchase, though we separate it out. But generally, and all of the affordable units have to be evenly distributed throughout the building. You can't distinguish them from the other units. They have to be proportionate to the other, the numbers of other units. So if you have a predominance of studios, then your affordable should have a predominance of studios. And your floor area for your affordable units can't be less than 80% of the dwelling area for the market rate housing in general. Oops, sorry, I skipped a slide. Oh, I did a fancy little thing, I guess. Affordable housing units can only be rented or sold if we're making purchase housing to individuals or families who qualify. By qualify, they'd have to qualify under Westchester produces an income limit standard, and we use that through our third-party consultant to help us determine who would qualify. Oh, I skipped one. Oh no. There was supposed to be more on this. Oh, okay, sorry. So what if the developer doesn't want to provide affordable housing on site? And if they don't, we have a buyout plan. The buyout plan has to be approved by the village board, and they would have to come with a really valid financial reason, or maybe there's a topographical issue of why they can't produce it on site. So here's the nitty-gritty detail of the code, why they can't provide it on site. Oh, no, it was just you want to read it? It's just the same thing I just said. Okay, go for it, Rika. Oh, sorry, Trustee Levin.
I just want to read it. Thank you.
Okay, are you done, Trustee? Okay, so some of, there's also, so if you provide affordable housing, we also provide density bonuses, so there's an incentive to actually provide those bonuses. And we provide the density bonus is valid for both rental or for purchase housing. And if you're creating the affordable housing units, you would qualify, and you'd have to still comply with whatever your zoning district requires. For rental housing, you have to provide the 10% that's required, and then you can get a bonus that's equal to the number of affordable housing units you're providing. So essentially, let's say you were building 30 units, your 10% would be 3 units. If you were to qualify for the density bonus, you could get another 3 units, so 6 units. And then when you dedicate, when at least 10% is dedicated to the low-income units, which is further defined in our code as a lower level. I think it's like 50% of AMI. Then you could get a bonus that's 5% of the market rate units, and this would have to be agreed upon by the planning board. So this is just a general list. There are, in addition to the ones that are in our program, which is only about 26, there are approximately 850 units of housing throughout the village that could be considered affordable. Some of those are stuff like 19 Hamilton, 4951 State, Snowden House, Claremont Gardens, 97 Croton. Some of them are just addresses that we might recognize. But when we add all those little numbers of 6, 7, 17, some of the bigger ones, Snowden House, which has 124, you start to see that we do have a lot of affordable. Of those affordable, we also have approximately 154 units that are senior affordable, stuff like Maple Housing and the Pines. So for a small village of approximately 30,000 in 3 square miles, we're doing pretty well in affordable housing. So in the program that the village handles, there are 26 units. And when we create new affordable housing, when there's new development in town, the village has a contract with a third-party consultant, and we work with the consultant to screen the applicants, maintain the waiting list, qualify all the households for that lottery for the actual unit to take over the units. They maintain waiting lists. We also maintain some waiting lists as well, and they handle recertification. So. And while this looks like an easy process, this is time-consuming. You have to qualify them based on, there's pay stubs involved. They have to qualify and meet the existing requirements that Westchester County sets for income limits for a household of 2 people, 4 people. So some marketing you might have seen recently, some of the more recent affordable housing units that came on the market within the last 3-4 years in the village. Just a little bit of information. So when the rents are determined, we make sure that they don't exceed, the rents for affordable units don't exceed 30% of the gross household income for a household that's at 80% of AMI. AMI in Westchester is approximately 104,000. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For a family of 4.
Okay, for a family of 4, yes. So, it's calculated based on understanding the rents, the utilities you have to pay, the parking, additional fees for any sort of gym or amenity on site. Utilities and additional fees for amenities or parking are generally waived. Utilities, there's a specific utility guideline that Westchester County provides that for how much people have to pay as part of their rent. And then, so bear with me a second. So there's also been, based on recent conversations before the board and the public in general, there's been an interest in a housing needs assessment. A survey, a housing needs assessment is essentially a survey, and it would provide an inventory of our existing housing stock. It includes affordable, not affordable. It gives us a better range of understanding what we have in the village right now. It also identifies whether it's a 1-family, 2-family, or additional, if it's a 4-family. The condition of the housing, is it good or fair condition? Is it substandard, standard? It helps us locate where they are primarily located. Are they located close to transit? A lot of people that have affordable housing might not have the ability to maintain a car and an apartment, so it helps you understand where it's located. It also gives you a better demographic of Austining in general in relation to Westchester County and New York State, and provides an understanding of the demographic of the population that is an affordable population, whether they are at 80% or lower of Westchester County's AMI. So looking forward, recently the village has had the opportunity to be involved in several conversations in a very positive way.
Can we come back to our
Yes,
seats?
you can. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You could turn it off.
Thank you.
In a very positive way, Legislative Borgia and convened a meeting earlier this week, and is looking for opportunities with Westchester County and also with Austining to potentially use Austining as a model community for the county and for other communities outside of Westchester County, outside of New York. Just there's a group that has a unique new paradigm, and they want to try it out on an actual living group. Yeah, community. Thank you. And because of our demographic, because of our size, because of our location, we are primed for that. So we are in conversation with them to potentially have that happen in the next year or so. And the mayor and Trustee Levin and myself had a conversation with Pace University, the Law Center, this morning to discuss possible participation as one of 7 communities in a sustainability and land use LULA, and also a potential affordable housing LULA that would be run on a parallel track this fall.
And just to clarify, LULA is the
land use
Land Use Leadership Alliance. It's a training that the Pace Land Use Law Center
for,
provides
yes,
to
municipal officials. And
yes, and several of us have participated, and there's more opportunities for participation
Yes.
coming up.
Yes, and so the LULA, sorry for the terminology, it runs the paradigm, the framework for it is revisiting the issues based on looking at our comp plan, looking at our zoning code, looking at our published policy documents, and analyzing what are the next steps we could take with respect to affordable housing, with respect to sustainable land use in general, how far we've come, and how far we have to go to reach our final goal. And then it also could actually potentially lead us to all of this information, could lead us to undertake a parking needs or a housing needs assessment in general. Any questions from the board?
I'm sure there are. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
Trustee
you.
Bazemore.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, how are you
So I'm good. I saw Clemmer Gardens was included on
Yeah.
It's
the.
not anymore?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that
Completely-
list
completely
is a couple
market
years
rate.
old. They've,
Okay, so the list is a couple of years old, yes.
Okay. Yes. I was just.
We'll take that off.
Yeah.
are there any other large
Yeah.
developments that we're aware of that have reverted, that have gone to lower the number?
The
So-
Pines?
No, the
So
Pines
the
is still good.
Pines. I mean, the thing about the Pines is like that is a part of Bethel's nursing home. So like you can. That's senior living.
Independent living.
Independent living. I mean, I used to work there, so
It's $1,000 a month.
yeah. So assisted living. So I don't know. Like I just would like to look at that list again.
Sure.
I don't know, when I think of affordable housing for seniors, I think more of like the Maple House versus like something like the Pines, which is.
I think it's a broad,
Yeah.
it's a
Very
broad
broad,
understanding
yeah.
of all of the options that meet the needs of a wide variety of people in the community.
Yeah. And Birchwood, where's Birchwood? Did I see Birchwood up there?
Birchwood.
Wasn't Birchwood on the other list too? Bless you.
The Birches, Snowden Avenue? Is that the one you're looking at?
Is that the PUD units? The
16 of them?
Okay, all right.
We're getting into the nitty gritty. How about you and Lynn take a look at that list and see if if the numbers are going up or down, because
But also,
It was a larger number than I expected.
80 Main Street is going to be 43 units of affordable senior
That's true.
housing also. so
generally the numbers go up.
that's-
It's just Claremont Gardens where it went down.
So,
83, by 83, you mean where the Elks Lodge?
The Elks-
80 Main Street, it's not that many, it's like 20-something.
Is it 20-something? I thought it was, I'm sorry.
Well,
I could be
it
wrong.
wasn't clear to me that, I mean, where, and maybe you could enlighten us about that particular project. Is that, there seems to be activity there. Is there something going on
where's that?
at 80 Main
80
Street?
Main.
The old Elks Lodge, but I don't think that that's reserved for affordable units anymore. It was originally
Yeah,
approved as
I think it
affordable, and I
was,
think now it
and-
may be
Find
market
out,
rate,
but-
so.
I could
Oh, yeah,
update
I-
you
I-
again.
yeah,
on
that's
that.
That's, it was original approval.
The original proposal was for affordable senior housing, but I think that the project was approved to be built, and then it was subsequently sold to another developer, and I don't think that's what's going on there now.
I'm not sure it was sold, but anyway, let's not get bogged down in particular, because we're still only talking about 20-something units there, and she's talking about a number over 800, so whether it's a
Right.
little more or less, it'll be an interesting study to do, and 26 of them is what we actually manage.
Yes.
I mean, I'll just make one comment as far as the affordable housing law is concerned. I have looked at that affordable housing over and over again, and I definitely respect the spirit of the law that was created in 2006. In 2006, the Village Board made a statement saying, we believe that we need to address our affordable housing needs. We believe, if you go back to the statement, it'll say that they believe that addressing the affordable housing needs would cut down on overcrowding housing. And it's just been in my own personal experience is that the 10% set aside, that 80% AMI is not really conducive to what the needs are. And I think this board could always look to modify that policy because other communities particularly for those that were actually caught in the HUD settlement, the model policies now are for rentals at 60% AMI and for home ownership at 80% of the AMI. So I just want to just voice my opinion on that. And also, I would also love to increase the set aside, but that's another conversation for another day. And
You've also spoken favorably about the value of doing housing needs assessment.
Yes, I have. Yes, because I think it's important that people know actually what we have. There may be a perception that there's enough affordable housing, but what people are actually paying versus how the housing looks is two different things. And I think if we're going to make an informed decision, that we need to have all the information available in order for us to make a decent policy change that addresses the needs.
Anyone else want to comment on anything that Lynn has presented? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you mentioned in the housing assessment that there would also be metrics around, I guess, the people that are living in that housing as well. Is that what I was led to believe? Was that my understanding of what you said?
We could get metrics of just demographics in general of the village, and then we know the affordable units that we have per se
currently exist,
50
right?
or whatever. We could get demographics of the people that are in those units, so that could help inform our decision of the type of.
Mm-hmm. So what would it? I mean, do you know what it would cost to do an assessment?
Well, everything comes down to money, and it depends on how in depth and how comprehensive we want to make that study, and what we want to tie it to, how much it's going to cost us.
Well, can you put together like option A, B, and C, and you can give us the Cadillac plan or the Volkswagen plan or whatever, 1, 2, and 3. Let us know kind of
bicycle plan, right?
what our bang for the buck is going to be. I mean, listen,
Yes.
I'm in support of the housing assessment. I think it's a very important and instructional tool that's going to help us understand what's going on. The recent. I mean, we just had Chuck Lesnick here, who informed us that our availability of housing is low already.
Yeah.
It's not as low as it is in some places in New York, but it's clearly low. And there's certainly been anecdotal information that we've heard that where even people that have vouchers can't find a place to live. So that's not a scenario that is good for the people that have lived here all their lives and want to stay here, and they're being shut out because of the economics and because they're at the lower end of the economic spectrum, and that's not something I'm really proud of. I think we need to create a situation where people who've lived here all their lives, who aren't necessarily at the upper end of the economic scale, can have a good, safe place to live. And so I would be informed by the study, and I would like to understand what those options are from a cost basis and understand, what benefits we could derive from the level of complexity of those studies.
Sure. So. I can gather some preliminary numbers for you and come back at a different meeting with some more details. Sorry, Trustee Levin.
I want to go over some of the macros. So a housing needs analysis is based on metrics, us versus the county.
Your microphone.
Am I not on?
You're on.
Yes, we got you.
So the housing needs assessment, which is what you brought up as part of it, if I wrote this down correctly, is based on metrics of the village versus the county within the state. So it's a lot about metrics. It's about inventory. Affordable is an explanation. The median income is 105. It's 80%. So it breaks it down. And is it a templated study, or do we have to create what we want the person or consulting firm. This is the one you were talking to me about, right, Quantel? So is this the, like, if we move forward with deciding how big or small, or are we still just letting people know that it's an option out there to do? I don't know where we are. Are we anywhere with are you asking us to?
No, I think it's just an option that,
Okay.
potentially could happen. There, if you want to look at how to set it up, there are templates for how to do it. We could create our own template.
Okay. So
HUD has a template that they do. So there are ones out there that we could mimic.
Is it mostly based on like inventorying things,
It's
or is it mostly on
inventory,
metrics, or
location, condition of the housing, the type of population that utilizes it, your demographic of your community in general, how big you are, whether you have a lot of extra space to spare, whether you're landlocked, if you're overbuilt, whether you have infill, all of that stuff.
Okay, so every time you add stuff, it just adds to the cost. It's basically, I'm getting that sense here. So we have to be very clear about the stuff we're looking for.
Yes, so we'd have to whittle it down and determine exactly what we're looking for. I just proposed it as a general idea that's out there in light of all the other conversations we've been having, what the opportunities are.
But one thing we could do is, like, your numbers about how much affordable housing you think we have currently. Is the number 8? I didn't get that number.
It's about 850, give or take.
Units.
I think give and take is what
Yeah.
we came up with, yes.
Okay, 850 units.
I'm sorry, say that again.
850 units spread out across 3.5 miles.
Yes.
Okay. I actually got that right. And, okay, that's it.
Trustee Casada?
Thank you. It's actually very informative.
Yeah, turn your mic on.
Thank you.
We'll have it off
Thanks. Thank you, Lynn. It was very informative. It's interesting to say that we've been hearing that Austin needs more affordable housing. I think I agree with Quintel and sort of the rest of the board, where we need to actually understand what is that we actually have. That being said, there was some information in there. How big is it? Maybe Lynn or whoever knows. How big is Claremore Gardens? How many units is in there? Is it 200?
It was 120 units.
120 units. So out of the 800 minus 120 units, so we're talking about 700 units, so to speak, that instead of the 800 units that was presented. Well, when you put this study together, were you able to look at other communities and how other communities in Westchester were doing in regards to affordable housing? Were you able
Which
to
study? When I put out the housing study?
The housing study,
When if we were to do a housing needs assessment, yes, we would we would put together what we want to know and
No,
detail.
I'm talking about the presentation that you just did, that you said we have about 700 units that are affordable.
Right.
If we go to Tarrytown, did you look at their stacks, or
I
did
did
you look
not.
at any of the municipality to see what?
I just looked at us.
Okay.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Sorry.
I just, we had Chuck Lesnar early today talking about something very similar but different. The studies that we may want to undertake, I just want to make sure we kind of work together.
Yes. That is key.
And don't make two separate studies that come up
Yes.
with the same conclusion, and then
Yes.
we ended up paying for two different studies that we may not even use. I think part of the coordination is on your department, or mainly on you, that will have to do all the additional cleaning up of what is repetitive in the studies. I think that's kind of essential to what we need to make in 2006 when the village board passed a resolution for affordable housing. As you mentioned, it was the first one. It was pretty much based on a template that Westchester County has still in place. That's by law, and their regulations for any municipality, 10% set aside, the 80%. It's pretty much in any municipality that has passed this law has pretty much just put their village instead of the blank space, in some of them. So I guess the consensus of the board is to do the study, to get some ideas from you, recommendations from you, I guess.
I wasn't asking to do the study. I
Okay.
was just bringing it up as
Okay.
it's on,
Oh, you
it's
weren't
on the
asking?
It's not yet. It's on the table. But just so,
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know about some of the options that are out there, some of the conversations we've been having, and the studies that could be running parallel. And just like you said, connecting them, that's the key. So before we jump in, we want to kind of see where all the other conversations are going.
And if I may,
Yes.
last question for now.
For now.
For now.
Okay.
You mentioned that there was a conference call this morning in
Yes.
regards to PACE
Yes.
and all of this stuff. So can you be a little more detailed exactly what that means? In regards to, you said that there could be a potential of 7 municipalities working together. So what does that
So
exactly
there,
mean?
sorry. PACE was part of a grant that they received from the state, and they have the opportunity to look at in detail and so about 7 to 8 municipalities, and it's with respect to land use and sustainability, and they have a checklist of things that range from mixed use development, economic development, coastal resiliency, planning for density, zoning for density, building greener buildings, green building codes, stuff like that. And we basically have to go through the list as a community and figure out what we want to look at in detail. What they're going to do for us is they're going to look at all of our comp plan, our zoning code, potentially the building code, and any of the policies documents we have right now for those policies, and they're going to help us get to the next level by doing the research and the gap analysis, as they've called it, for how we can take the next steps, what the next steps are in best practices across the board in the U.S. in general and other communities have done, so that we can kind of make a decision about how we might want to implement or change our code and implement those changes. Sorry.
Is there a future state model that they've developed, or is it going to be based on the analysis of the different communities, and then they're going to project out the model from there? So they're going to gather the information
Right, so,
first.
Yes. So those 7 communities would be the model, essentially 7 or 8 communities.
Well,
We would
they'd be the starting point. They'd be the
Yes.
current state, right? And then they're going to build out the model based on the information that they gather from all the communities.
Well, it's very similar to, I know you've done a LULA training focused on affordable housing, which is going to be offered simultaneously this fall to the sustainable land use. So I think it's alternating Fridays. You've done the affordable housing LULA. If you're interested in doing the sustainable land use, you could do that this time. I've done the sustainable land use. I could do the affordable housing this time. Rika has already committed a bunch of dates on her calendar. She's going to do the sustainable land use. So it's 4 alternating Fridays in the fall. And what's different this time for the sustainable land use is we were actually the first community, they're going to ask us to sign a letter, which I don't think that they sent us the language for yet,
they didn't.
just saying that we think this is a super terrific opportunity and we want to be part of it, which it is. The PACE Land Use Law Center, it's free for any, they would like 4 participants from village government, either appointed or elected folks who have some voice in our planning and zoning decision-making. What's different this time is they had a preliminary meeting with us to help us identify what are our priorities. And over the summer, their law student interns, I assume that's how they get all of this great research done, will work with Lynn to do what, as she referred to, a gap analysis and say, hey, you identified these 3 related items on your checklist, so we're going to zero in on every law, every policy, everything in your comp plan, everything in your zoning plan that relates to that, and identify for you what you're not doing, what else you could consider, and then recommend some best practices. And we've been selected as one of a handful of municipalities able to participate in this because it's pretty labor intensive. It's not just sending a few people who are willing to devote their Fridays to doing it. It's spending time with our staff to really investigate our status quo and make recommendations to us. We will also, as participants, have the opportunity to learn what are the best practices that are being recommended to all of the other municipalities. We won't necessarily get the gap analysis of their laws and their codes, but if somebody, let's say we focus on mixed-use development and somebody else focuses on coastal challenges, we'll get all the information about our gap analysis and the best practices for us. And we're also going to get the best practices recommended for the municipality that had a different set of priorities. All of these conversations they're having in the municipalities will also drive the agendas for those trainings. So at least Rika is going to be there. I don't know who else is going to join her. Hopefully 2 or 3 or 4 other people are going to join her. Each day that you go there, you will have speakers and workshops and programs that are really intensive with a relatively small group of people, not just reviewing the gap analysis and what our challenges and best practices and recommendations are, but also learning from experts through case studies and experts in the fields that have been identified as the concerns for a significant number of these 6 or 7 municipalities that are participating. So I see this as one of the, and it costs us nothing but time. So we like that. I mean, we're all very dedicated. We dedicate an awful lot of time to try and do great things on this front. And this board has been asking, how can we approach reviewing our comprehensive plan? And there are a number of resources that are being brought to us as potential tools for doing some in-depth first steps in that analysis. I believe that this is one of them. I would like to see at least 1 or 2 or 3 of us also participate in the Lula affordable housing training this fall. Are you writing that down there, Trustee Cowden? Very good. And then the other resources that Lynn referred to were County Legislator Borgia has, she is working with the county. She proposed, and I think it's actually in their budget, we'll see how it really shakes out, doing a county-wide housing needs assessment. And Ossining could really be the model for how the county could do that. And she is interested in trying to help us move that forward as well. So that could be instrumental in us being able to move forward with the housing needs assessment. I'm getting a sense from the board that we are asking Lynn to come back to us with a range for a scope of work and what that would look like and what the cost associated with it might be for a housing needs assessment. And the other opportunity that came to us is this new kind of software that is a really dynamic planning tool. Everybody who has participated, I know that Managers in Brown participated in, they did a couple of hypothetical scenarios in Westchester for potential developments, but they're really looking for a real-life model of something that could truly happen in a community, and we could be that model, and it could be a really great opportunity for us to learn if this new planning tool can be instrumental in us doing more of a master planning approach. And then the other thing that's come up is a park needs assessment. It's come up in everything that we ever discussed, and it came up tonight from our the presentation for the Downtown Development Fund Council. And so I think that's something that we also need to understand what that would mean if we want to do a scope of work for what that would be and how we may consider moving that forward. Those are all things that I know you have discussed, and I just kind of wanted to restate them all together because undertaking a comprehensive plan review is a really big undertaking, and we do have some resources that are coming our way that I think are really good first steps in doing that in a smart way.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Bazemore.
Yes, I've mentioned, we've talked about ETPA tonight, and we're hopefully Corporation Council will be drafting legislation. But in the meantime, I hear a lot of great ideas, and definitely, probably a year from now, we will have this great masterpiece. What I would urge the board, though, is to possibly consider just amending our affordable housing law, because the issue is that 80% of the AMI, that's not where for me, as a personal resident, and before becoming on this board, for me, I know that that's not where the need is, and I know that we have other municipalities here in Westchester who have adopted a model ordinance. I'm curious to know, and I actually haven't done enough research, but to actually see if all amenities are actually included. And I think there has been some issues, particularly with some developments where all amenities weren't included, or where utilities may not have been included. Or I do know that the HUD gives a guideline, but I don't know if there's been any enforcement on that. I know I've heard more complaints, and I know particularly I've asked I've talked to the planner about the focus and the enforcement of making sure that each unit is indistinguishable and making sure that each unit is not placed in the same place. So just going forward, because we're projecting a year, 2 years down the road, I would highly urge this board to consider amending the affordable housing law, at least to the model ordinance that was left to us by HUD. I find our affordable housing law, just looking at it at Chapter 62, a little confusing and not as concrete as other laws, and I think we can clean that up, being mindful that in the future we may want to revisit how to address the affordable needs of this community.
That's a big little thing to just throw out there.
Just an amendment.
Just an amendment.
Just an amendment.
If I may?
Oh, yes, certainly.
I have arranged for an intern on an externship basis this summer, which means the intern will be getting credit and will not be costing the village salary and benefits. Not that we provide benefits to part-timers, but it will assist us, and certainly this is an interesting project to do the research that you just mentioned, looking at other communities who have different levels of AMI and also more streamlined approaches to the process. It's certainly a project that a law student of this nature and with these capabilities could seriously look at and make a. We were looking for a project for this student to complete in the term of the externship, and then to provide this level of summary, as the planner has done, to you all, because being able to speak publicly and in this organized way is one of the aspects of the projects I'm trying to assign. So I would welcome the opportunity to assign this kind of thing, to poll other communities, to look at the implications in their zoning, and to see, what people have done with the model HUD code, and to work from there. That would be an excellent opportunity. So I would take that direction if that's what you would like to do.
Did anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Bazemore that, it's something we ought to look at. I mean, if we have a free resource that could do the analysis and examine what other communities are doing that are more progressive, I don't think. I think at the time that we did the plan, and believe me, I was intimately involved in the comprehensive plan, and I remember when we did it, and it was a long process, but the comprehensive plan is a living, breathing document. It isn't something that's stationary. It's something that has to evolve because circumstances change. And what we believed was the right thing to do then may not be the right thing right now. And I think that if we can look at alternatives and other ways to address affordable housing through, the programs the program that Trustee Bazemore talked about, I think we need to consider it. So I would certainly be in support of the analysis or the project that the council just brought up. So I would be interested in that. So
thank you, John. I just want to clarify. I do, because I just want to make sure that I'm being as clear as possible. Laura Lee, I know I send you a lot of stuff. But this particular thing that I'm talking about is really just looking at a model ordinance already adopted here in Westchester that can be a slight amendment to the law. So I don't want to make it seem like this is a big analysis. I just want to make clarification because I know I send you a lot of stuff that can be kind of like from here, from there, from everywhere. Okay, but thank you, John.
Others want to comment on the suggestion that we look at amending our current affordable housing law, consider adopting the recommendations essentially from the model ordinance that as a result from the HUD settlement, which we're not subject to because we are already in good standing with the HUD guidelines for affordable housing.
We had guidelines, so they kind of, but hey, I'm at the monitor.
Look, it feel like it's like I'm watching popcorn pop. I can't get a sense about, it's like this thing over here and this thing, change a law, have somebody study, look at consultants, go to PACE. Honestly, I like not getting how I'm supposed to make a decision based on a very siloed approach by a few people who have opinions, because I can't get a sense of the picture, any picture. And I'm pointing to you because I think you're the village manager. It's really hard to make a rational and have a rational discussion based on studies from all over. Like, we live in a county that's been looking at this for 30 years. We have things in place. I need I can abstain, about things because I feel educated. I get stuff from you. I get stuff from you. You're doing presentation. I don't mean to be rude. It's, I'm like losing, the center of the target here and what's being looked at, what we're analyzing against, what metrics are, if we need any metrics or we just want to change things. Look, I can abstain because I feel that this is not the way to make decisions. Other people feel comfortable making those decisions. That's great. So either we figure out a way to get a plan in place that says these are the 4 things we have to do in the next year or in the next 3 months or the next 30 days, with people who can say, arguably, and not do presentations because they chose data that speaks to their end game, but actually have stuff. I actually didn't know there was a pilot that's being suggested where Ossining is going to be recommended, so that was news to me today for the first time.
It was
So
news
that's
to us
sort of
2 days
nice.
ago.
Yeah.
So that's nice that we're a pilot. I've done marketing for many years, and will tell you that pilots in and of themselves end up being reality. They don't end up being pilots, and no pilot should be done in one location. All pilots should be done against a null set in another place about anything that gets rolled out. Otherwise, there are no metrics, no measurements, and we're back to exactly the conversation we're having now. So if somebody did do it, it doesn't tell me that that was the right thing. Maybe 50% is the right number, or 32%, or 28%. So somebody in one community or 2 communities, or somebody in cities did it, like the city of Yonkers that has done a lot of work, or the city of Washington, D.C. I'd love to vote on anything. I just have I just keep getting, it's like sitting in a tub of popcorn, honestly. It's, for me, who's not an expert in this, is amazingly frustrating. I have a sense that there isn't a lot of expertise. We see a bunch of experts who all have their siloed expertise, which is what we saw tonight. So somebody has to frame, look, I may be the only one amongst the 5 of us who feels that way. But, and again, I can abstain from a lot of stuff by saying that
There's nothing to abstain from. We're not taking a vote.
Not today, but I'm just saying, if you want to vote and you want to change, I need something to work with here, numbers, metrics, something. What says success? What happens if you do that? Just give me something.
So-
and I'm looking at you because this is like your
No, but I
your
think
role.
that the ideas that have been tossed around tonight in reference to affordable housing, these are all things that the board could consider doing. I know that we're kind of talking about all these studies and being the one of the case studies. I think that we need to come back to the board with, I think, maybe a list of things and steps that we need to follow. I think that will be the best way to organize it. I think that there's certainly a lot of information that has been presented to the board tonight. And nothing is going to happen overnight, obviously, but I think that there are a number of things that we, members of the staff, based on what policies you want to proceed, we can come back to you and can give you more information. So I certainly do understand, your concerns, and we will make sure that whatever information we bring to you and the rest of the board makes sense, so that you make the informed decisions, whether it's the model ordinance for the affordable housing, or whether with the information that Legislator Borgia brought to the village just a couple of days ago. These are things that we need to discuss at some point. So I think that
this is good
just
stuff.
wanted to-
I feel like I want to move forward in some direction, so do that.
Lynn, would you like to address these concerns?
Sure.
Or sum things up for us?
Sure. You actually did a really good job of that earlier, Mayor. But so,
Maybe
Trustee
not.
Levin, I think some of this alludes back to what Trustee Casada said about connecting everything.
Okay.
And some of these studies provide an opportunity for us to connect some of our dots and provide us some data and understanding. And the opportunity that Legislative Borgia brought to us is actually a unique opportunity. And in all of these are just options, and we don't have to go with one or the other or any of them. They're just opportunities that are on the table right now, and the opportunities actually come a lot more affordable than doing the full-blown studies all on our own. So there's a lot to be gained from that information, and there's also a lot of information we can ask for from these studies that could help us inform our decisions of what those top 4 categories are that we want to go towards on implementation and goals. Does that help? Okay. Are there any other questions?
I have a
Sure.
couple. I'm not sure if there are questions.
Should I have not said anything?
What is interesting is that we have talked about a lot about affordable housing. What in the past we had 2 different presentations for a Section 8 office and from IFCA, which and they were very similar but very different presentations, and definitely the presentation that you did today, it was kind of wrapping what sort of was missing out of the whole presentation. But I think, and I could be, and I've been wrong in many occasions in the past, but I think a lot of the groups or the presentations and even what Quintel is asking is not about affordable, is about low income, which is different than what the laws we have, which is about affordable housing. So that's the part that I think, and that I still need to understand. And there was statements made where the total presentation of residents of the village of Ossining between IFCA and the Section 8 office is about 1,000 people, 1,000 residents they are literally that live in the village of Ossining. So that is only maybe not even a 5% of the community that resides here within the village, because we are about 25,000 people. So when you look at a 5%, is it really the affordable part that we have in issues, or is the low income that we have in issues? And how do we address those issues to help the members of our community? How do we do that? And that's the question that I have asked different people. How do we address the issues for our people that actually live in the village of Ossining? Because all the Section 8 part, IFCA, when I ask that question, it's like we really don't have a choice. Section 8 has a list, has a preferred list. But when I was talking with IFCA was, anybody can come in to Ossining, and pretty much we have to give them the apartment or the studio, whatever the case may be. So how is that helping the residents of the village of Ossining? That's the part that I still don't have an answer. And if we represent the residents of the village of Ossining, how do we help them? Because it seems like affordable problem or affordable housing, Ossining, the village of Ossining at least, doesn't have a problem like other municipalities like Bedford may have, like Chappaqua may have. So, I don't know. I agree with Rika. I mean, it's a lot of information. I'm not sure modifying something is going to fix what we may have found.
Right. Well, there's a lot there, but I do want to pick up on one piece which follows up on what Trustee Basemore initially cited, which is our actual affordable housing law when we talk about whether it's 720, 850, whatever number of affordable housing units in the broad variety of ways that those could be designated. Right now, it's 26 units that are part of the affordable housing program. There are another couple dozen, 3 dozen or so in the developments that we are anticipating coming online. It's not, even if tomorrow we passed a law that changed the affordable housing set aside to 50% area median income or 30% area median income, it's not the silver bullet that's going to address what we believe may be the needs of the community, and we'll better understand if we do move forward with the housing needs assessment on how much substandard housing do we have, because I think that really undermines some of our ability to communicate to the community that there may really be a need for additional affordable housing, because people may see some substandard housing in our community and assume that that's affordable housing, but really that is not an affordable housing program at all. In fact, it's landlords who are overcharging for substandard housing to community members who have the least ability to really defend themselves against unfair housing situations. So I like the idea of getting some more data and information about the model ordinance and what affordable housing regulations are in place in other communities, and I think that would address some of the concerns that I'm hearing on this side of the table. And I think it does need to be reviewed in coordination with the economic development goals of the community, with all of our sustainable development goals, with everything that we'll be looking at as part of the comprehensive plan. Whether we can move forward pieces of it faster than other pieces, maybe we can. Is that at all satisfactory?
Yeah, I just want to say again, the 10% set aside, it applies to new development, and while it may not address the pipeline, when I hear of studies, this is government, and the truth of the matter is we are here for 2 years and then we face re-election. And so the only reason to bring that notion is, again, if it could be the step in the right direction, because, again, the issue is that when you have the 10% set aside, if it's at 70%, if it's at 80%, there are a great deal of people who are not even eligible or can't even afford to apply for that housing. Now, if you're Section 8, the voucher may cover it. It actually may cover that portion. But if you are someone without the voucher, if you are a single person with no kids, those units are out of your reach. So again, I understand that we're making great strides to do these studies. We're making great strides to eventually do the comprehensive plan. But and it's that I don't doubt government, but we may be 3-4 years down the line until we actually come up with the master solution. And there still may be development that may happen or may not happen.
Can I just point out, since we had our meeting last month where we talked about housing, we have passed resolutions in support of preserving the affordable housing at Snowden House. Right. Tonight, we moved forward with ETPA, and that is highly unusual. There's an incredible amount of housing that could very soon, if we continue on this path, have rent stabilization. And I know Croton did it for like a building, yes, but we're talking about hundreds of units that will be protected in a way that they haven't been. So, yes, government moves at a snail's pace. It's a big behemoth, and there's a million studies that we need to do and a million committees we need to listen to, and all of us need to weigh in for weeks at a time and have public hearings, and it's very slow. But quite frankly, in a month, we've made some significant progress toward preserving affordable housing and creating a potentially a new system for rent stabilization for people of needs, particularly including seniors and people who are disabled. So I want to give us a little bit of credit for moving a little faster than government often does and really shining a light on concerns about affordable housing and making sure that we are taking the steps that we can to provide housing that addresses the needs of our very diverse community, because that is something that this board has stated many times, that we are unlike most communities in Westchester. We are as socioeconomically diverse as any big city in the country, and that's something that we want to preserve. And I think we're moving ahead pretty swiftly on the fronts where we're able to, and I think we're looking at a variety of ways to be able to move forward in making some very smart decisions that will have lasting impacts for generations to come, whether it happens in the next 2 months or the next year. All right. Anything further from the manager, from Lynn?
Nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you.
Lori?
Last item on tonight's agenda, actually, no, we have two minor ones after this, but Corporation Council will talk to you about the Veterans Tax Exemption law that you may want to consider.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
The veterans exemption that I'd like to discuss with you is a statutory-based exemption. It's not an exemption that was enacted by local law. Statutorily, in Real Property Tax Law, Section 458, you're mandated to provide an exemption up to a certain dollar amount. And it seems this is for eligible veterans who have used pension, bonus, and insurance monies in the purchase of their homes. The assessor contacted us and indicated that based upon the new valuation system that is coming to full valuation, if the full valuation goes into effect, the full exemption amount will end up decreasing because there's a dollar amount. So if you're going to allow the current level of exemption, we need to add a local law that just provides for the ability for this multiplier to be in effect. In other words, there's 152 parcels in the Village of Austin currently that qualify for this exemption at the statutory minimum, and by putting a new multiplier in to take into value that the assessments now will be at the full market value as of the 2016 roll. It just provides for the same level exemption. So it's a dollars to dollars. It moves forward and just adds a multiplier to your code. So it's just a way for calculation purposes for them to get the same level of exemption they're already getting under the statute.
Well, it's too bad Tom's not here, but I guess once again, I'd want to understand the financial impact of.
There's no financial impact because it's just to allow for the multiplier to change. These taxable properties already have these assessments. Based upon conversations I had with the assessor this week, he clarified that this exemption is given statutorily. It didn't need to be in the local law to begin with because the statute mandates this exemption should these veterans have used their pension or insurance monies toward the purchase of their homes. So they're already existing in the village, 152 properties that qualify. So their exemptions will go down because you're changing your methodology in the way you're going to be.
So are you saying they're already getting the benefit of the exemptions?
They
already?
are correct. Correct. They are. They're getting it up to the statutory minimum. So we'll need to just add a local law which provides the opportunity to recalculate so their assessment exemption doesn't actually decrease.
Oh, it's different than.
Yes.
Yeah,
that-
no.
Yeah.
but
was
we
gonna
have
say.
new
Did I just-
information.
did I just-
That was
Link is something.
thank you
So now.
Completely
it's-
new information.
Because
Completely
just so
new.
the folks at home know, we sought advice of counsel to try and understand this, but since we had advice of counsel, we've gotten some more legal information. So,
Yes, we
so
have.
now we're trying to
So
make
if
sense
we
of it.
don't do this,
Right.
they will be on a decline over
Correct.
time. These vets are
Vets,
gonna
yes,
are
as
going
of-
to- if we do, they will
They'll stay level.
Level.
Correct.
Not going up, though.
No,
This would
it's
be a
not
level?
going up. It will just
It doesn't sound
provide
as sexy
the
as
opportunity.
what we discussed last time, but okay.
Yes, it's a new it's new information. It can easily be added to. You have a chapter which provides for a veterans tax exemption under an alternative real property tax law, but this is the straightforward statutorily mandated that says if you used your pension, if you used your insurance money as a qualifying veteran in the purchase of your home, then you qualify statutorily mandate across the state for this exemption. So we need to just change the multiplier so they don't lose their level of exemption, because the method of assessment will now be at full valuation.
I'm okay with it. It
Yeah,
just
I mean,
sounds like a
I think we were killed last
strange,
time. So.
but okay.
So
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like they're not
carry
really
on.
getting
I mean,
a good deal
that
here.
sounds like there's no difference, right?
Nope.
Well, there's certainly no difference to us as
us,
far
but to
as the taxes that the village will get. But it sounds like for functionally dollar amounts for the veterans, the 152 properties that are in the village, we need to take this action because the properties are being reassessed.
They're being reassessed now at 100% valuation, at market value.
Okay.
So
And
that's
by
the-
taking this action, they are benefiting, or we're just making sure that everything is lined up as it should be?
If-
I imagine it would vary depending on how your property was assessed differently today than it was a year ago. Or
Correct.
2 months
That's
ago.
why we're going to use this as a multiplier. It will be a new multiplier, and it will be in your local code.
So if somebody's property assessment went up, if a veteran's who's in this program, his property assessment went up, then if he wasn't already at the maximum amount of the exemption, then he would be brought up to it? I'm not entirely clear on exactly how this works. I'm perfectly happy with supporting it, so if I'm getting too much into the weeds, you can just tell me
Sure.
to
No,
not worry about it.
It
but
is.
Right.
It is.
I'd like to understand it
It
a little
seems
better.
anti-intuitive is all I'm saying.
Yes.
It is
all I'm saying.
anti-intuitive. It's completely anti. It's New York State law. So, but in order for them to be equally benefited, we need to provide this local law to put a multiplier in so it can be calculated based upon the new way of assessing the properties.
So moved.
I'm assured by this.
I just want to make sure that we're not voting with the intent of bettering
You're
their
not-
financial
no,
position,
you're
and
not.
in turn end up doing something.
It's to preserve.
bad.
It's to
Right.
preserve
That's all
the
I care
same
about.
level, the same level of exemption, using a new multiplier.
Do they tend to max out what the exemption,
Most.
allowable exemption is?
Yes, that's actually the basis of the program, that they would max out at that.
So they're probably still going to max out, it's just that the paperwork will be accurate.
Correct.
Okay, we should just vote, because as long
Are we
as-
voting on that, or
on
we're
the
just moving
record-
forward? We're saying,
I'm
please
gonna
bring that on
it
to us
forward.
next week.
I'm going to
Okay.
bring it forward to your agenda next week to call for a public hearing.
Great.
So you'll actually get to see the.
We get
the
to talk
law.
about it.
Yes,
The
we'll get
public
to ask
will
more
get to see the
questions
law.
then. Very good, very good. And everybody else
It will
can
be
ask questions.
clear.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Good.
it's very
Manager
different.
Zambrano, it looks like we have a couple of requests here.
Okay.
You gotta turn your mic on.
My apologies, I keep
Okay,
forgetting. We had gotten a letter from the
please.
Christopher Columbus Lodge requesting permission to use the east side of the train station parking lot for the annual car show. It has really no negligible impact on anything down at the train station, but it is a day that attracts a lot of people from the village and outside the village. So, I mean, typically they will come to us earlier, but I think this year I think they may have forgotten. Because it is this coming Sunday.
Yes, I was going to say, it's this Sunday.
So, yes.
Yes, it's,
So,
Don't they need like police or something there? Don't, I mean, like,
No, they.
It's the PVA.
It's
Oh.
so yeah.
Organizing this.
I didn't even know the parking lot was ours. I thought
PVA
it
works
belonged
with-
to
yeah.
Metro North, but okay.
Yeah, and they
Oh,
they
the
work,
east side is
yeah,
ours?
They actually work, and they do a pretty good job.
And they
doing
do this
these
every
cars.
year?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
only go
it's
to the
fun.
one in
Great.
Maryknoll. I didn't know they even did
There's
it.
some really cool cars
it's like
there.
the 5th annual or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
8 o'clock
annual.
to
Oh, is
5
it that
o'clock.
much?
13th
Oh, that's
annual,
nice.
yes. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun.
right.
Can we
Yes.
like let people know they should let us know like on time
Well,
in any
typically
way
they do.
going forward?
Typically they do, but this year they apparently forgot about it. I know
Okay.
they did this last year before I joined the village, so if
Okay.
not, we would have it on the calendar. But so I'll go ahead and make the arrangements. And the other request we have is from the Australian Portuguese Center.
Oh,
They're requesting the use of the parking lot on Spring and Main Street for the annual Portuguese Day festival, which is going to be held on June 18th this year.
Oh, 6/18.
So that does require a little bit of
difficult.
coordination with the police, but it's really nothing major.
How many people come to that?
Lots.
Very well attended.
Well,
They
this is a
usually
big Portuguese
actually close a
community, right?
portion of
I
the
was just
street.
gonna-
We
I was
need
gonna
to
ask you-
clarify
Yes.
whether they want to close a portion
Yeah.
of the street.
Well,
we
if they
will-
have they had an attachment on
Yes.
there, and I believe
Yeah.
it says
Spring
Main
Street.
Street and Spring Street.
Correct. It's closed for a
So-
few hours exactly. So
But
we will.
did we do that last year? I thought it was
Yes.
just Spring Street last year. I didn't thought it was
Both.
Main Street.
No, Main,
Main Street.
I remember my kids getting their faces painted on Main,
Okay.
right in
Yes.
front of
They will
Dover's.
What day
Yeah.
is that on?
June 18th.
It's a Saturday.
The Saturday.
Saturday, correct. And that the thing is,
It's fun.
they actually in the
Sounds
past
like
they have
fun.
Yeah.
clean. I mean, they take care of all the garbage, so we've never had any problems with that. Also, they
Great.
are very organized and
These
they
are all good
put
things.
everything,
We should be
uh,
publicizing.
so. All right,
Yeah.
so I will go ahead with your
So I'm
permission
gonna
and
miss
make
all
all the
that food.
arrangements.
Yeah, the
all right?
sardines are awesome. The dancing is a lot of fun. My kids got up there and danced with the folk dancers. I highly recommend you mark your calendar for June 18th.
Hey,
Let us know what else, if there's anything more that needs to be done. I assume that the police department has been.
We will coordinate
coordinating
with the
with-
police department,
okay.
exactly, make sure that everything works out as we have in the past.
So in principle, I think the board is very supportive,
Yes.
and we trust that you will
Very
get all the
nice.
information that you
I
need.
will let both groups know. Thank you.
Great.
I have nothing else for the board.
When does
this
it
evening.
start anyway? Do you know?
Portuguese do we have?
Let's see.
It starts late afternoon, like 5 or something?
No, because they have like the church thing.
Yeah, well,
They have a church service like 11.
They
and
have,
that's-
actually, it's from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Oh,
Very
They
nice.
have the first,
okay.
they have a mass in the morning, and then.
Oh, yeah.
They don't,
No.
they don't, exactly. So,
I just have an informational piece. Going forward, like this time next year, is that park the new park, does that become part of public space to do fairs and festivals?
we are looking.
Harbor Square?
Harbor Square,
yes.
We don't have a date yet for the opening, but it will.
But does that also
Henry
become
Gord-
available
Henry
for people to
Gordine.
do things, I mean, technically?
Yes.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting.
yeah, we are actually still waiting response from the governor's office to see.
Yes, we have not
No, we
yet
have
gotten the
not,
date
so-
set. We're hoping for sometime by late May. The sign's been ordered.
Yeah, but I'm just saying for next year, not,
Yes.
not, this
Correct.
would be, this is like another venue in a sense.
Absolutely.
That we could use for
Yep.
things like this.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
That'll be very cool.
Can we have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel for specific persons?
So moved.
On the board. All right, with that, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. We will be at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court facility, whatever day in May that is, next Wednesday at 7:30, May 4th. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's something else I should remind you of, but we'll just see you next week. Have a good evening.